Breaking now, we have Tropical Storm Erin. It is now here. This is our newest named system in the Atlantic.
And it may be way out in the Atlantic, but it certainly has our attention. It went right from Invest 97L to Tropical Storm Erin with winds of 45 miles per hour.
And those wind speeds are expected to increase in the coming days as it makes its way westbound. In fact, by the time we get towards the early part of this up and coming weekend, we could be dealing with a major hurricane, Category 3 hurricane, moving just north or just by the eastern portions of the Caribbean island. So certainly one to keep a very close eye on.
It certainly is a top story on this Monday as we continue to follow the tropics for you. Right now in the tropics, it is the main game in town. We've got nothing threatening land in the eastern Pacific. And as we look ahead to what's happening in the Atlantic, Tropical Storm Erin is the one that we are watching.
Yeah, that's the one farthest to the east. They're just west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Again, that's what's going to be tracking on off towards the west. Here's the closer view on this thing. And we've been watching kind of the flare up of the storms kind of surrounding this thing. And it just, looked well organized. And certainly the National Hurricane Center thought the same and went straight from an invest to now a tropical storm with the winds estimated to be about 45 miles per hour.
At this point, hurricane hunters aren't flying into it here. It's basically satellite estimates that are being used to give you an understanding of what's happening in that particular storm. It is a tropical storm with winds of 45 miles per hour and likely to keep on that strengthening track. So we see overall atmospherics favorable for strengthening, looking at a hurricane by Wednesday.
Yeah, it should continue moving westbound, big high to the north, which is generally going to direct this thing on off towards the west. Now the question becomes, as we get beyond kind of that Saturday time frame, does it continue to move westbound, or is there a window for this thing to curve and turn towards the north a bit more? That is, all those are still, all those are within realms of possibility. Right. So we got to keep an eye on this.
Yeah, and certainly we're saying as we look at this cone of uncertainty, it's a track cone. And what if it tracked on this outer edge, the southern edge of the cone? Well, that would put the islands, at play in terms of getting some impact. So this is why even if you're not in the cone, you need to be paying attention to this. We know this far out, things can change in the steering flow, but we'll show you what we know right now.
There we go. Visible satellite showing you here again. There is Erin itself. There, the Cabo Verde Islands. So moving away from that, we'll continue to watch this thing. You can see there's been flare-ups of thunderstorms. So again, this thing's not showing signs of a weakening. It's the opposite, showing signs that it is going to be strengthening here.
The steering flow will be this big high pressure to the north, a very common pattern to see in the middle of August. And so that movement from east to west likely to continue without any other players right now. Any troughs up there well to the north and away. It's really the high pressure, the only game in town at the moment to steer things.
And as we start to look at the wind environment, right, there's already big shear and these strong winds in the upper levels to disrupt this thing. And as we see, not really seeing much of that here along the path here as we works its way towards the west. We don't see any big time sort of roadblocks for this thing to weaken it, essentially.
Right, and that's why it is expected to strengthen, and that possibility is there that we could get to major hurricane status by the time we get to the weekend. Steady strengthening, all models show that. They're differing, of course, to where they end up, but most of them are bringing up to at least hurricane status.
Absolutely. So as we work beyond that time, that Saturday time, we get here just north of the islands here, closer towards the southeast coast of the U.S., and chance of a hurricane over the next 10 days. And you can see it's kind of in that, I'd say 30, 40, close to 50% range here just north of the islands.
Right. And so that gives you a sense of, this is the European model, a sense of the probabilities. We're just so far out at this point, which is why this isn't higher or lower, to be honest. There certainly is that risk of a hurricane. There certainly is even the risk of a major hurricane.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that is right now the current forecast. So let's take the European model's depiction of the low-level spin associated with Erin. Again, moving westbound. This is by the time we get to about Thursday or Friday. Again, still a lot of time to watch this thing. But according to this model, again, generally stays north of the islands. But again, we got to keep an eye. Does it move a little bit farther south? Could have some impacts on the islands there. And then begins to kind of nudge towards the north a bit more for us through the weekend into early next week.
That was the European model. Let's look at the GFS forecast model, and we'll take you through that same animation where, again, that movement from east to west, moving in across the Atlantic. It's close, right? I mean, when you look at this and you know that there's a spread in the ensemble runs of the models, it's close. Bears watching here across the northern Antilles.
And then very similar to the European, again, starts to take more of a jog towards the north. So certainly one that needs to be watched, because that is not a certainty, at least at this point. But here's a look here, the average number of days for a tropical cyclone to make its way to the U.S. And so where it is right now, it's right in this general area, about a 10 to 12 day sort of range. So that's the kind of time frame we would be looking at here in terms of it potentially reaching the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, it's both reassuring and at the same time makes you think, okay, that's about enough time. Like, if this was to get all the way to the U.S., that's about the time you have. So time now to prepare. By the way, I mean, we're already on Erin now in the Atlantic Basin. So it's busier than people really think.
It's true. You're like, wait a minute, where did A, B, C, D go, right? But yeah, we're already at that EE name with Erin. So keep checking back again. Plenty of updates when it comes to Erin.